Mr. Czerniawski, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Raskin, and members of the Judiciary Committee for holding this critical hearing on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Our founding fathers enshrined individual liberty and privacy as bedrock ideals of our Constitution. Yet over the years, we've seen a surveillance state that only continues to expand, operating with limited accountability, all under the guise of national security. And national security is vital, and few would deny the many dangers facing our great nation today. I would know firsthand, growing up in Queens, New York, and experiencing the terrible events and aftermath of 9/11, a tragic day that showed us the cost of being unprepared, but also demonstrated just how quickly extraordinary powers, once granted, can become normalized. And history warns us of the dangers of unchecked government power. Time and time again, we have caught the intelligence community raiding the civil liberties fridge, taking liberties that were supposed to be off limits, apologizing barely when they're caught if we're lucky, promising to never do it again, and then returning to business as usual. It would be humorous if the consequences to Americans' rights were not so serious. Too often, agencies appear more concerned with managing bad headlines than safeguarding the privacy and rights of the people they were created to serve and protect. This repeated cycle of violations has resulted in an erosion of public trust in the very institutions charged with keeping Americans safe. In December of 2024, CNN's Harry Enton cited Gallup polling showing that support for the FBI in particular was at an all-time low, with just 41% of respondents saying that the agency was doing either an excellent or great job. That represented an 18% drop in just 10 years. That is a damning indictment against the key agency responsible for keeping Americans safe. An intelligence apparatus that lacks the public trust becomes less effective, not more. Congress has the responsibility to restore the balance. And when it comes to addressing the litany of issues under FISA, there are many out there, but here are 4 key reforms that Congress should prioritize. First, close the backdoor search loophole that allows for warrantless searches of Americans' communications. Second, close the data broker loophole, which lets agencies buy their way out of constitutional constraint. Third, strengthen third-party oversight at the FISA court, improving due process and casting sunlight on decisions too often made in darkness and secrecy. And lastly, fix the overly expansive definition of an electronic communications service provider, a definition that dangerously brought in the kinds of entities that can be deputized into the surveillance apparatus, a recent issue stemming from FISA's reauthorization under the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, also known as RISA.
How are we going to fix it?
As Ms. Goitein pointed out, it radically and drastically expanded the definition of what would be captured underneath an electronic service, communication service provider. And because that threat is still there, I think that there's an opportunity with this upcoming reauthorization discussion to go and rein that back in. Now, to their credit in the Senate, Senator Mark Warner did try to go and get some fixes to that definition, but it was stripped out of the Intelligence Authorization Act process. So that problem is still there, and I hope that with this upcoming debate that we can get the fix that's so desperately needed.
Is there any one in particular that you would point to that you'd say, we got to have this?
Yeah, again, I think the most fundamental one is getting getting a warrant. Closing that backdoor search loophole is really, really integral. But this electronic communication service provider, I think, kind of jumps right up there with it because, again, it is just way too expansive. It goes and conscripts a whole host of businesses into the surveillance apparatus that had no intention of ever being in there. So much so that it was a rare instance where you even saw industries go and speak out against this particular definition of language. ITI had submitted a letter to Congress going and asking to go and fix that definitional issue.